In Gahodong, power did not need to speak loudly. It showed itself in quiet ways. In the way doors opened before someone reached them. In the way conversations slowed down when certain people walked in. In the way everyone seemed to understand things, without saying them out loud. The penthouse restaurant sat high above the city, wrapped in glass and soft golden light. From outside it looked calm. Inside, it held some of the most powerful people in Gahodong. Men in tailored suits. Women with careful smiles. Low voices. Controlled laughter. Everything about the room was measured. Until he arrived. Rin Kurashima. No announcement. No introduction. One moment the room moved as it always did. The next something shifted. It was small. So small that anyone unfamiliar with power might have missed it. But the people in that room noticed. A pause in conversation. A glance that lasted half a second too long. A chair that was adjusted without thinking. Rin did not look around to see who noticed him. He already knew. He walked through the room without hurry. Not slow, not fast. Just steady. Like nothing in that space could interrupt his pace. He wore a black suit jacket over a dark shirt, open at the collar. No tie. No decoration. Nothing unnecessary. The only thing that stood out was the tattoo along the side of his neck. Dark. Bold. Permanent. It was not there to impress anyone. It simply existed, like everything else about him. He reached the center table and sat down. No one had told him where to sit. No one needed to. That seat had been waiting. Across the room, conversations tried to continue. But they did not sound the same anymore. People spoke a little softer. Laughed a little less freely. Watched a little more carefully. Not because Rin demanded attention. Because he didn't. And that was the problem. Men who wanted attention were easy to understand. Men like Rin were not. He did not lean forward. He did not signal for anyone. He did not scan the room like he needed something. He simply sat there. Still. Calm. Untouched by the quiet tension that had started to spread. A server approached his table, careful with every step. A glass of water was placed in front of him. No ice. No questions. Rin gave a small nod. Nothing more. The server left quickly, but not in a way that looked rushed. Just efficient. That was how everyone behaved around him. Efficient. Careful. Distant. Because approaching Rin Kurashima was not a casual decision. It meant something. And no one in that room was willing to take that step without a reason they could defend later. So they stayed where they were. A group near the window lowered their voices. A man who had been walking toward the center table suddenly changed direction. Another checked his phone even though it had not vibrated. It happened again and again. Small choices. All leading to the same result. Distance. Rin remained exactly where he was. One hand resting lightly on the table. The other near his glass. His eyes moved slowly, taking in the room without appearing to search for anything. He missed nothing. But he reacted to nothing. That was what made it worse. There was no signal. No warning. No clear intention. Just presence. And in a place like this, presence was enough. Because real power did not need to explain itself. It did not need to prove anything. It did not need noise. It simply existed. And everything around it adjusted. Minutes passed. The rhythm of the room tried to rebuild itself. Carefully. Cautiously. As if people were testing how much normal they were allowed to have back. And then, something broke it. A sound. Soft at first. Almost lost under the quiet movement of the restaurant. But it did not belong there. It came again. Sharper this time. A child crying. Not controlled. Not quiet. Real. The kind of sound that did not ask permission before entering a room. Conversation stopped. Not gradually. Immediately. Heads turned. Not toward the windows. Not toward the entrance most guests used. Toward the side corridor. The sound came from there. A small figure appeared. A little girl. Her steps were uneven, like she was trying to move faster than her body could keep up with. Her breathing was broken, pulled in too quickly, pushed out too unevenly. Her hair was styled in soft puffs, slightly messy now. Her face was wet with tears that had not slowed since they started. One of her hands clutched her arm tightly. Too tightly. The sleeve of her clothing was darkened, clinging to her skin in a way that made the injury clear without needing explanation. She did not stop at the entrance. Did not look around. Did not search for help the way people expected. There were staff nearby. There were adults closer to her than anyone else. But she ignored all of them. Her eyes were fixed on one place. One person. She moved forward. Past the first table. Someone stood up slightly, unsure if they should intervene. She didn't slow down. Past the second table. A A server stepped to the side, giving her space without thinking. She kept going. Her breathing hitched again, a sharp sound escaping her as she struggled to keep moving. So, she did not look left, did not look right, did not hesitate. Every step was pointed, direct, like she had already decided where safety was, and nothing else mattered. People began to shift out of her path. Not because they understood what was happening, because something about her urgency made them move. And slowly, the distance between her and the center table disappeared. Ren had not moved. Not yet. But his eyes were no longer scanning the room. They were on her. Watching. Measuring. Understanding something before anyone else fully did. She reached the table. Her small frame barely level with where he sat. For a second. Just a second. It looked like she might stop. Like the weight of everything, the room, the people, the man in front of her, might finally slow her down. It didn't. She stepped forward, both hands reaching out, grabbing onto the sleeve of his jacket, holding it tightly like letting go was not an option. Her fingers clenched into the fabric. Her body shook with the effort of holding herself together. And when she looked up at him, her voice came out broken, uneven, but clear enough to cut through the silence that had taken over the entire room. Please, make her stop. 7 weeks earlier, the tower did not feel like a place where anything unusual could happen. Everything in Gahodong had a system, and this building followed it perfectly. Schedules were followed. Voices stayed controlled. People moved with purpose. Nothing extra. Nothing wasted. Amara Vance had learned that quickly. She had been working in the building for over a year. Long enough to understand the rhythm. Long enough to know what was expected of her and what was not. She did her job well. She spoke when necessary. Listened more than she spoke. Finished tasks without drawing attention. That was how you stayed in a place like this. That was how you kept stability. Because for Amara this was not just a job. It was survival. And she had one reason for everything she did. Zuri Solen. 6 years old. Small but never fragile. Zuri was not the kind of child who filled space with noise. She did not demand attention. She did not interrupt adults. She observed. Always watching. Always noticing. Her eyes missed very little. Her hair was styled in soft, rounded puffs, framing her face in a way that made her look even younger than she was. But the way she carried herself said something different. There was thought in her silence. Understanding in the way she looked at things. When Amara worked late shifts, Zuri came with her. At first, Amara had been careful. She kept Zuri in quiet corners. Away from main areas. Out of sight. But something unexpected happened. The staff noticed her. Not loudly. Not in a way that broke the rules. Quietly. One of the kitchen staff would leave a small plate aside. A cleaner would point out something interesting through the glass windows. Someone would adjust a chair so she could sit more comfortably. No one made it obvious. But it was there. A kind of care that did not need to be spoken. Zuri understood it in her own way. She did not run around. She did not cause trouble. She stayed where she was placed. And most of the time, she drew. Her notebook was always with her. It was not large. The cover slightly worn at the edges. Pages filled with lines, shapes, ideas that only made full sense to her. She drew dragons. Not simple ones. Big ones. Small ones. Some flying. Some standing still. Some facing outward like they were guarding something. Sometimes there were castles. Sometimes people. Sometimes things that did not look like anything real but still felt important. She would sit quietly, pencil in hand, completely focused. As if the world inside the notebook mattered just as much as the one around her. And in many ways, it did. There was a garden on the east side of the building. It was not large, but it was quiet. Green space surrounded by glass. A place where the noise of the city softened. That was where Zuri liked to sit. On a simple bench, legs crossed or swinging slightly, notebook open, pencil moving. It was one of those afternoons when the air felt calm. Amara was working inside. Zuri was in the garden. Drawing. She had just finished outlining a large dragon in the center of the page. Its wings stretched wide, uneven but strong. Around it were smaller shapes, still forming into something. She paused, tilting her head slightly as she looked at it. Then she added more lines. More detail. More thought. Footsteps approached. She heard them. But she did not move immediately. Only when the steps came closer did she look up. And there he was. Ren Kurashima. Standing just a few feet away. Still. Quiet. Watching. Most people, when they saw him, changed. Their posture. Their expression. Their voice. Zuri did not. She looked at him for a moment. Curious. Then, without hesitation, she turned the notebook slightly toward him. Not fully offering it yet. Just enough to show. "I'm drawing," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. There was no fear in it. No hesitation. Just a simple statement. Ren did not respond immediately. His eyes moved to the page. He looked at the drawing. Not quickly. Not dismissively. He took a moment, taking in the shapes, the lines, the intention behind it. It was not perfect. The wings were not even. The proportions were not balanced. Some parts did not connect the way they should. But it had something else. Life, movement, an idea behind it. After a moment he spoke. "That's detailed." His voice was calm. "Oh." Zuri's grip on the notebook relaxed slightly. She turned it fully toward him now. "They're protecting something," she said. She pointed to the smaller shapes. "They face different directions." She paused, thinking. "So nothing gets missed." Ren's gaze stayed on the page. There was no reaction on his face that anyone else would have noticed. But he understood what she meant. And he acknowledged it. "That makes sense." Zuri nodded slightly, like that confirmed something for her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The space between them was quiet. Not tense. Just still. Then Ren reached into his jacket. A small movement. Controlled. From inside he brought out a piece of dark chocolate. Wrapped simply. Nothing special to look at, but intentional. He placed it on the bench beside her notebook. Not handing it to her directly. Not making a gesture out of it. Just leaving it there. Zuri looked at it. Then at him. He did not explain. Did not say anything more. He straightened slightly. Then turned and walked away. Just like that. No extra words. No lingering. Zuri watched him leave. Her eyes followed him until he disappeared through the glass door. Then she looked back at the chocolate. She picked it up carefully. Studied it for a second. Then placed it beside her notebook again. She didn't eat it immediately. Instead she picked up her pencil. Turned to a new page. And began drawing again. This time. Smaller lines. More controlled. A different kind of dragon. Not as large. But more balanced. She worked on it for a while. Quietly. Focused. When she finished, she tore the page carefully. Placed it on the bench. And used a small pebble to keep it from moving. Then she took the chocolate. And held it in both hands. Still not eating it yet. Just holding it. Across the garden, behind a section of glass. Someone had been watching. Still. Silent. Not missing a single moment. Eyes fixed not on the child. But on the interaction. On what it meant. On what should not have happened. But did. And in that stillness, a thought began to form. One that would not stay quiet for long. Kalith Vorn did not enter spaces quietly. She did not need to. Attention followed her naturally the way light follows glass. Not loud, not dramatic, just present, impossible to ignore once noticed. She moved with precision. Smaller. She kept her notebook closer. Her eyes lifted more often, not in curiosity, but in awareness. She began choosing corners. Places where she could sit without being seen immediately. She still drew. But something in the way she existed in the space had changed. Less open. More careful. Amara saw it. And she did not like it. But she said nothing. Because in places like this, some things were better handled in silence. Days passed. And Kalith watched. Every small change. Every adjustment. Every sign that her presence had begun to affect the environment. But it was not enough. Because the child was still there. Still existing. Still drawing. Still not fully gone. And that was the problem. One afternoon, Kalith walked past the garden again. And there she was. Zuri. Sitting on the bench. Notebook open. Pencil moving. Focused. Unaffected. As if nothing had changed at all. Kalith stopped. Her gaze settled on the child. Longer this time. Still. Quiet. No interruption. Just observation. And in that stillness, something finalized. Not emotion. Not anger. Decision. Clear. Cold. Precise. She did not step forward. Did not speak. Did not reveal anything. She simply turned. And walked away. But this time, she was no longer watching. She had decided. The child. And her mother. Would not remain there any longer. The change did not happen all at once. It came in small moments. Quiet ones. The kind people could ignore, until they could not anymore. That afternoon in the garden, the air was calm. The city noise sat far below, softened by glass and height. Light filtered across the bench where Zuri Solen sat, her notebook open across her lap. She was drawing again. Carefully. Her pencil moved slower than it used to, more controlled, like she was thinking about every line before she placed it. The dragon on the page was different. Still strong. Still large. But something about it had changed. It faced outward. Watching. Guarding. Zuri paused and looked at it. Then added smaller shapes around it. Her focus was complete. So complete that she didn't hear the footsteps at first. Not until they stopped directly in front of her. She looked up. Caliph Vorn stood there. Still. Perfectly composed. Looking down at the notebook. Zuri hesitated. Just slightly. Then, out of habit, out of who she was, she turned the notebook toward her. Not fully offering it. Just showing. "I'm drawing," she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. But it wasn't as open as it had been before. Caliph did not respond. Her eyes moved across the page. Taking in the drawing. Not with interest. Not with curiosity. With judgment. Zuri waited. A second passed. Then another. Caliph reached forward. Her hand moved quickly. Too quickly for Zuri to react. The notebook was knocked from her hands. It hit the ground with a flat sound, pages bending slightly as it landed. Zuri froze. Just for a moment. Then she moved. Quick. She stepped down from the bench and picked it up, holding it close to her chest. Her fingers pressed into the cover tightly. She didn't look up again immediately. Caliph's voice came, calm and even. "You shouldn't be here." Zuri nodded. A small movement. Fast. Like she understood that agreeing would make the moment end sooner. "I'm going," she said softly. She turned. Walked toward the door. Not running. But faster than before. Her steps quiet. Controlled. Holding the notebook tightly against her. Behind her, Caliph watched. Expression unchanged. Then she turned away. The next part came 3 days later. In a corridor on the 3rd floor. The space was empty except for one junior staff member organizing supplies. Caliph approached. No hesitation. No wasted movement. The staff member looked up immediately. Straightened. Caliph stopped close enough that her presence filled the space. "There's a problem," she said. Her voice was low. Measured. The staff member waited. "You've allowed something that shouldn't be happening." Pause. The meaning clear even without specifics. The staff member nodded slowly. Uncertain. Caliph continued. "The woman who works here. The one with the child." Another pause. "I don't want them here anymore." The staff member shifted slightly. Not comfortable. But not refusing. Caliph watched carefully. Then added without changing her tone. "Find a reason." Silence. The instruction settled. It was not a request. The staff member nodded again. This time more firmly. Caliph gave a small, satisfied nod. Then turned and walked away. The corridor returned to stillness. But something had already been set in motion. The day of the incident arrived without warning. The penthouse restaurant was busy. More than usual. A high-profile gathering. People moving in and out. Staff working faster. Voices slightly louder but still controlled. Everything running as it should. Amara Vance moved between stations, focused, efficient. Her hands steady. Her attention sharp. Zuri sat near the service counter. Notebook open. Pencil in hand. She stayed still. Quiet. Out of the way. Like she had learned to be. Her drawing was smaller today. More contained. She kept her eyes down. Focused only on the page. Caliph entered the space. Dressed perfectly. Composed as always. Her eyes moved across the room once. Taking everything in. They stopped on Zuri. Just for a second. Then shifted. As if that was enough. She stepped forward. Toward the service area. "Coffee," she said. No greeting. No pause. Amara turned. Prepared it quickly. Placed the cup on the counter. Caliph took it. Turned. And stepped closer. Closer than necessary. Zuri noticed. Her pencil paused. She looked up. Their eyes met. Caliph's expression did not change. "You're in the way," she said. Quiet. Precise. Zuri pulled her arm in slightly. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. Already adjusting. Already making herself smaller. Amara turned fully now. "She's not in your way," she said. Her voice calm. But firm. "She's sitting still." Caliph's gaze shifted to Amara. Slowly. "I wasn't speaking to you." Amara held her ground. She didn't do anything. The air tightened. Staff nearby stopped moving. Not completely. But enough to notice. Caliph took a step closer. "You've become comfortable," she said. Soft. Dangerous in its calmness. Amara didn't respond. Zuri stood. Slowly. Her notebook pressed against her chest. Her chin lifted slightly. Small, but steady. "Don't talk to her like that," she said. Her voice quiet, clear. The words landed. Caliph looked down at her. Really looked this time. And something in her expression shifted. Not loss of control. Something sharper. Faster. Her hand moved. Sudden. In toward Zuri. But it didn't land. Amara stepped in front. Took the impact across her face. The sound was sharp. It echoed. Amara didn't fall. Didn't cry out. She turned back. Eyes steady. Unmoving. For a moment, everything stopped. Then Kalitha's attention shifted again. Back to Zuri. Her hand still holding the cup. The movement was quick. Decisive. She threw it. The liquid hit Zuri's arm. Hot. Immediate. The reaction was instant. Zuri screamed. A raw sound. Sure. Uncontrolled. Her body jerked back. Her hand gripping her arm tightly. The cup fell. Hit the ground. Rolled once. Stopped. No one moved fast enough. Not at first. Because the moment, it didn't feel real yet. Zuri's breathing broke. Tears came fast. Too fast. She clutched her arm, her body shaking as the pain spread. Amara stepped forward. Reaching. But Zuri had already moved. She turned. Ran. Not thinking. Not stopping. Through the space. Past the tables. Past the people who were now frozen in place. Her steps uneven. Her breath broken. Her vision blurred. But she kept going. Holding her arm. Holding herself together the only way she could. And she didn't slow down. She ran out of the service area. And into the main room. Running toward the only place her mind had chosen. Without hesitation. Without doubt. She ran. The room did not move. Not immediately. When Zuri's small hands tightened around the sleeve of his jacket, everything else seemed to disappear. The voices. The movement. The quiet calculations people had been making all night. Gone. Rin Kurashima looked down. His eyes settled on the child in front of him. Not quickly. Not with surprise. With focus. He took in the details. Her uneven breathing. The tears that had not stopped. The way her small hand gripped her arm too tightly. The skin there. Red. Angry. Already reacting. His gaze stayed there for a moment longer. Then shifted back to her face. "You're hurt," he said. His voice was calm. Oh. But it carried. Zuri nodded quickly, her breath catching again. The room remained silent. No one interrupted. No one stepped forward. Because something had already changed. Ren reached out. Not fast. Not sudden. Carefully. He adjusted her position slightly, guiding her closer to the chair beside him. "Sit," he said. Simple. Clear. Zuri obeyed. Her body still shaking as she climbed onto the seat, holding her arm close. Staff were already moving now. A first aid kit appeared. Cold water. Clean cloth. They worked quickly, quietly, focused on her. Ren stood. Slowly. Straightening to his full height. And then, he turned. His attention moved across the room. Not searching. Knowing. Caliph Vorn stood near the entrance. Still holding the empty cup. Her posture controlled. Her expression already shifting. Carefully arranged. "It was an accident," she said. Her voice was steady. Measured. But something in the room rejected it immediately. Ren did not respond. Not to her words. He looked past her. "To the security room," he said. No raised voice. No anger. Just instruction. "Bring everything." Pause. Then. "Now." That was enough. Mr. Han Seo-jun stepped forward immediately. No hesitation. No question. He moved with purpose. The room stayed still. Waiting. Kalitha's composure held. "For now." "You're overreacting," she said. Still controlled. Still trying to guide the moment. It was a mistake. The child moved. "Everything," Rin repeated. He did not look at her. Not yet. The screen at the far end of the room came to life. A soft glow. Then. Footage. The service area. Clear. Sure. Unforgiving. The room watched. Kayla stepping forward. The positioning. The distance. No collision. No accident. The words. Her body language. Zuri standing. Amara stepping in. The slap. And then. The throw. The cup leaving her hand. The arc. The impact. Zuri's reaction. The footage stopped. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. No one spoke. Because there was nothing to explain. Mr. Han stepped forward again. "There is more," he said. The screen changed. The garden. Zuri on the bench. Notebook open. Caliph approaching. The interaction. The moment. The notebook knocked from her hands. The child picking it up. Holding it close. Leaving. Another shift. Another layer. The screen changed again. The corridor. Caliph speaking to a staff member. No audio. But the meaning was clear. The posture. The nod. The instruction. It did not need sound. The room understood. The footage ended. The screen went dark. And the silence that followed was complete. Removed. One step forward. Then another. Not fast. Not aggressive. But each step carried weight. He stopped a few feet away from Caliph. Close enough. Far enough. He looked at her now. Fully. And for the first time. Her composure cracked. Just slightly. You misunderstood, she said quickly. Adjusting. Rebuilding. I was correcting a situation. That child, she doesn't belong here. You arranged it. Ren's voice cut through her words. Flat. Controlled. Not louder. But final. Caliph paused. Only for a second. I was maintaining order, she said. Her tone sharpened. Defensive now. This place has standards. You know that. You've always known that. And now suddenly, because of a child, you instructed staff to remove them. He did not raise his voice. Did not interrupt emotionally. He simply placed the truth where it could not be moved. Caliph's jaw tightened. I was protecting this space. Ren took one more step. Now close enough that there was no distance left to hide behind. You burned a child. The words landed slowly. Each one separate. Clear. No emotion in the delivery. Which made them heavier. The room felt it. The weight of it. Caliph's composure broke further. It wasn't like that, she said. Faster now. Less controlled. She spoke to me, she stepped out of place, Ren did not react. Did not argue. Did not engage with her explanation. Because it did not matter. He had already seen enough. You harmed a child. This time. It was final. There was nothing left to adjust. Nothing left to defend. The truth stood where it was. Unmoved. Unchallenged. Caliph looked around. At the people in the room. Searching. For support. For agreement. For anything. There was none. Every face held the same thing now. Not fear. Not uncertainty. Clarity. She turned back to Ren. Something desperate breaking through. You would do this over them? She asked. Her voice lower. Strained. After everything? Ren did not hesitate. Yes. One word. Enough. He turned slightly. Call the police. Mr. Han moved immediately. Already dialing. Already stepping away. Caliph's breath caught. This is unnecessary, she said quickly. Trying again. One last time. You're making a mistake. This will affect. It already has. Ren's voice remained calm. Unchanged. He stepped back. Not retreating. Concluding. The decision had been made. There was nothing more to say. Minutes passed. No one left. No one spoke. They waited. Because this was something they needed to witness. When the authorities arrived, the process was efficient. Professional. Questions asked. Footage reviewed. Statements taken. Caliph stood still. No longer speaking. No longer adjusting. The control she had held so tightly. Gone. She was escorted out. Through the same space she had once moved through without resistance. Now, every step watched. Every movement observed. No one looked away. Because now they understood something clearly. Power did not belong to who claimed it. It belonged to who enforced it. The doors closed behind her. And just like that, she was gone. The room remained quiet. But it was not the same silence as before. Before it had been filled with caution. With uncertainty. With distance. Now, it held something else. Understanding. The shift was complete. Not loud. Not dramatic. But undeniable. Because everyone in that room had just seen the same thing. Where the line was. And what happened. When someone crossed it. Time moved forward. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way that demanded attention. Just steadily. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, something inside the tower began to feel different. The structure stayed the same. The glass walls still reflected the city. The floors were still polished. The schedule still ran on time. From the outside nothing had changed. But inside, people noticed. The staff moved differently. Not in their duties. Those remained precise. But in the space between those duties, conversations lasted a little longer. Voices carried a little further. There were moments, small ones, where laughter existed without being quickly pulled back. It wasn't loud. It wasn't careless. But it was there. A kind of ease that hadn't existed before. And no one needed to explain why. Because everyone had seen what happened. Everyone understood what it meant. The rules had not been rewritten. They had been clarified. And that clarity changed things. In the East Garden the air felt softer. The same bench stood beneath the quiet stretch of sky, surrounded by green that seemed more alive now. That was where she was. Zuri Solen. Sitting with her notebook open, legs swinging lightly as her pencil moved across the page. Her arm had healed. The marks were gone. No more redness. No more pain. And more importantly, no more hesitation. She drew the way she used to, fully. Without checking over her shoulder. Without pausing at every sound. Without making herself smaller. Her lines were stronger now. More confident. The shapes she created filled the page again. Dragons. But different. Not just standing guard anymore. Not just watching. Some were moving. Some were resting. Some stood beside smaller figures instead of in front of them. Her world on paper had changed. Just like everything else. A few staff members passed by the garden. They noticed her. Of course they did. But now they didn't pretend not to. One of them paused briefly. "Are you drawing again?" they asked. Zuri looked up. She nodded. A small smile appearing. Hum. The staff member nodded back. "That's good." And then they continued walking. Simple. Natural. No tension. No need to hide the interaction. Zuri returned to her drawing. Focused. Comfortable. Present. Not far from the garden entrance, Ren Kurashima stood. He did not step into the space immediately. He remained where he was. Watching. Not in a way that suggested control. Not in a way that suggested ownership. Just watching. His posture was the same as always. Still. Composed. The black of his clothing sharp against the lighter tones around him. From a distance nothing about him had changed. The same presence. The same quiet authority. But the way people responded to that presence. That had shifted. Staff who passed him did not tense the way they used to. They still respected him. Still moved carefully. But there was less fear in it. More understanding. More certainty. Because now they knew something they had not known before. Where he stood. And what he allowed. Ren's gaze remained on the bench. On Zuri. On the way she leaned slightly over her notebook, fully absorbed in what she was creating. There was no rush in her movements. No guardedness. She existed there without hesitation. And that was the difference. A few moments passed. Then Zuri paused. Her pencil stopped. She looked up. Not because she heard something. Not because she felt watched. Because she chose to. Her eyes moved across the garden. And found him. Ren did not move. He did not look away. Their eyes met. For a second nothing happened. No reaction. No change in posture. Just recognition. Then, Zuri smiled. Small. Natural. The kind of smile that did not ask for anything in return. And she lifted her hand. A simple wave. No hesitation. No fear. Just acknowledgement. Ren remained still for a moment. As if considering something. Not the action itself. But what it represented. Then slowly, he lifted his hand. And returned the gesture. Not exaggerated. Not softened. Just enough. A response. Clear. Intentional. Zuri watched. Her smile stayed. Then she lowered her hand. Looked back down at her notebook. And continued drawing. The moment passed. Quietly. But it remained. Ren lowered his hand. His gaze stayed on the garden a moment longer. Then shifted. Outward. Toward the city beyond the glass. Gahodong moved as it always did. Busy. Complex. Controlled. Nothing there had changed. Power still existed the same way. Decisions still shaped outcomes. The structure of the world remained intact. But inside this building, something had shifted. Not the power itself. The meaning of it. Because before, power here had been something people avoided. Something they worked around. Something that created distance. Now, it was something understood. Something defined. Not by how it controlled, but by what it protected. Ren turned slightly. His steps measured as he walked away from the entrance. Not rushed. Not delayed. Just steady. Behind him the garden remained. Zuri continued drawing. The bench sat in quiet light. And the building? The same building that once held only careful distance. Now held something else as well. A kind of balance. Where fear no longer filled every space. Where presence did not erase comfort. Where power did not silence everything around it, it did not make the place weaker. It made it clearer. Because the people inside it no longer had to guess. They knew. And that changed how they stood, how they spoke, how they existed. Rin Kurashima did not become less powerful. He did not become softer. He did not lose what made people careful around him. But something else existed alongside it now. Something just as strong. Not built on fear. Not built on control. Built on decision. On choice. On the line he had drawn and enforced. And in a city where power often created distance, that difference mattered. Because now, he was not only the man people avoided, he was also the man people trusted not to look away. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more interesting stories.